Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Neil Freshman, and I'm with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation. I want to welcome you to this meeting to discuss the cut-through traffic plan for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street between Churchill Road and Georgetown Pike, Route 193. Tonight, we have staff from the Dranesville District Supervisor's Office, Fairfax County Department of Transportation, Virginia Department of Transportation, and Fairfax County Police Department. Nicole Machakwe from FCDOT has a presentation to run through, and after that presentation, we will open up the meeting for questions and comments. If there are any members of the Community Task Force on the meeting tonight, they can introduce themselves at the start of the Q&A period. So if you're ready, Nicole, you can begin the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Okay, so welcome everyone. Please note that this session is being recorded and may be shared on social media. Please hold all questions until the end of the presentation, and instructions for how to ask your questions will be provided at the end of the presentation. So we are here today to explain the residential cut-through traffic program process, provide an opportunity for public feedback, and answer any questions that you all might have. So to begin, what is residential cut-through traffic? Residential cut-through traffic refers to vehicular traffic passing through a residential area without stopping, without an origin or destination within the area. The residential cut-through traffic program provides communities the opportunity to identify issues and reduce volume of cut-through traffic in their neighborhood. This program is a community-initiated process that is administered by FCDOT in collaboration with VDOT and in coordination with the Supervisor District's office. There can be, this program has 8 steps and can be broken down in these 8 steps. So step number 1 is project initiation. Step number 2 is plan development. Step number 3 is community engagement. Step number 4 is ballot phase. Step number 5 is public meeting. Step number 6 is board endorsement. Step number 7 is implementation, and step number 8 is review, which is the final step. So for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street have already completed steps 1 through 4 and are currently on step number 5, public meeting. So to start with step number 1, project initiation, the community sent their request to the for cut-through traffic program to the district supervisor's office. When FCDOT received that request, we conducted a basic eligibility review, then identified the primary use area, and analyzed the subject road for additional eligibility requirements. Once Dead Run Drive and Carper Street passed all necessary requirements, the community then formed a task force. To meet basic eligibility requirements, the roadway must be VDOT maintained, have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and be functionally classified as a local residential road. Dead Run Drive and Carper Street met these basic eligibility requirements. This map shows the primary use area that has been identified for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street. There are 202 parcels within the primary use area. The parcels shaded in red are considered to be the most affected by the proposed cut-through restriction. An additional eligibility requirement that needed to be met was a reasonable alternate route had to be identified. As you can see here on this map, highlighted in green, is a reasonable alternate route that was identified for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street. For the second additional eligibility requirement, a traffic study and analysis needed to be conducted to identify how much of the vehicular traffic is actually cut through. For the subject road, to qualify, it will need a minimum of 150 cut-through trips in 1 hour in one direction and comprise of 40% or more of total trips. After analysis was conducted, a peak hour was found on Dead Run Drive in the northbound lane between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. The cut-through trips, or the cut-through trip volume was 162, and 79% of those trips were recorded as cut-through. So Dead Run Drive and Carper Street met the traffic study and analysis requirements. So when initial requirements are met, we move to step 2, which is plan development. This is where FCDOT reviewed the nature of the cut-through traffic issues and considered potential cut-through measures to address the issue and their impacts. The traffic control measure may include regulatory signs that prohibit certain traffic movements or barriers that physically prevent certain traffic movements. FCDOT met with the task force to review the conceptual plan and available options, to solicit feedback and sought concurrence of the plan from the task force members. Once concurrence had been received, FCDOT submitted the proposed plan to VDOT for review and confirmation. After review, the cut-through traffic issue on Dead Run Drive and Carper Street, we were able to propose a no left turn restriction from the hours of 4 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. This restriction will prohibit traffic to make a left turn from Dead Run Drive onto Georgetown Pike weekdays during the hours from 4 to 7 p.m. This restriction will apply to all vehicles at that time, with the exception of buses and by permit. This restriction will also include a U-turn prohibition on Georgetown Pike. Okay, and so after receiving concurrence from the task force and confirmation from VDOT on the proposed cut-through restriction, we then moved to step number 3, which is community engagement. Dead Run Drive and Carper Street community meeting was held virtually on September 12th, 2024. This is where FCDOT presented the proposed cut-through restriction plan and provided opportunity for community feedback and answer any questions the community had. Based on this feedback, the task force can decide to advance to the ballot phase or end the cut-through process. After consideration, the Dead Run Drive and Carper Street task force had decided to move forward to the ballot phase. So step number 4, ballot phase. During the ballot phase, each occupied property in the primary use area received 1 vote and sent it directly to the district supervisor's office. The ballot period was open for a minimum of 3 weeks, and 2/3 of occupied residences or businesses on the street identified in the primary use area were required to support the cut-through plan to be implemented. The supervisor's office tallied the votes and notified the task force of the results. Here is the ballot area map for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street. There were 202 parcels and 4 vacant properties were identified at the time of balloting, leaving 198 issued ballots for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street. In order for the proposed plan to move forward, 2/3 of the occupied residents or businesses on the streets identified in the primary use area were required to support the cut-through plan to be implemented. 132 yes votes were needed to pass. The district supervisor's office received 144 votes in total for Dead Run Drive and Carper Street. Out of 144, there were 132 yes votes, which means Dead Run Drive and Carper Street passed the ballot phase. After passing the ballot, Dead Run Drive and Carper Street were able to move to step 5, public meeting, which we're here tonight. 30 days prior to the public meeting, a notice of the public meeting was made to the community. This meeting is held to provide opportunity for the public to participate and allows residents outside the primary use area to provide input to the Board of Supervisors and VDOT on the study recommendations. The public meeting will also be followed by a 30-day public comment period. After appropriate consideration of public comments received by FCDOT, the cut-through plan is presented to Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for endorsement. A package that includes a board resolution, confirmation of community support, and synopsis and transcript of the public meeting will be sent to VDOT. So in step 7, prior to implementation of the proposed measure, VDOT will review the project package and confirms the proposed measure to be implemented. FCDOT will notify the Board of Supervisors of the implementation date prior to the application of restriction. Signs providing notification of the pending action will be placed on the affected streets for a 30-day period. Upon approval, FCDOT will coordinate with VDOT to implement the approved measures. So for the last step for review, after the cut-through measure has been in operation for at least 30 days, a review of the installed measures may be made to determine their effectiveness and impact on safety if deemed necessary. If the review indicates that cut-through measures have resulted in an operational or safety issue, the modification or removal of the measures may be required. FCDOT will coordinate with VDOT on the appropriate actions to be taken. After implementation of the approved cut-through restriction, residents will receive information about the permit program by U.S. mail, including how to apply when permits are made available. Residents that apply for a permit will initially receive a 60-day temporary pass at no charge that will allow them to legally turn left onto Georgetown Pike during the hours of the restriction. Annual permit decals will be available to residents when the 60-day pass expires. The fee for each annual permit decal is $24. Permit decals issued in calendar year 2025 will expire on December 31st, 2026. Residents in the primary use area that received a voting ballot will be eligible to apply for a permit. Permit applications will be accepted online by U.S. mail or in person at the FCDOT office. Permits will be vehicular specific and available only for vehicles registered to eligible residents. So this concludes the presentation for today. We can now move to our questions and answers session. So you have 2 options to ask your questions, chat or speak. Once the chat item is activated on Teams, you can use it by typing in your question. If you want to speak, please click the raise your hand icon. And once the host calls on you to speak, you can unmute yourself by clicking the mic icon or press Control-Shift-M on your keyboard. Please turn your mic off and lower your hand once you are done asking your question. If you are on the phone, please press *5 to raise your hand. When it is your turn to speak and the host sends you a request to unmute, press *6 to unmute and ask your question. Once you are finished answering getting your question asked or answered, press *5 again to lower your hand and push *6 to mute yourself again. And we do have quite a big turnout for tonight's meeting, So we would like you guys to be kind and courteous to limit your questions to give everybody an opportunity to ask. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm seeing the first hand from the number ending in 9733. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your mic. So that was just sent. It should be coming your way.
Hello, thank you. My question pertains to Thrasher Road, which is one block away from Carper and towards Churchill Road. It's on the other side of the elementary school, Churchill Elementary School. And it doesn't appear that the impact of the flow of the traffic to Thrasher Road has been considered. And so my question is, what is being done to ensure that the flow doesn't then dump through this very tiny little neighborhood, Thrasher Road, for a cut through to Churchill? Thank you.
Steve Knutson with Fairfax County Department of Transportation. We do have a 30-day period after the installation of the turn restriction to see what impacts are from that restriction on the local network. So if we're seeing any kind of activity, such as people turning off of Churchill to, cut through Thrasher, then that would be something we would consider when we are determining if we're going to leave the restriction in place.
Thank you. Is there anything that residents need to do, or do you do that monitoring on your own? And thank you for taking my question.
Obviously, if you're seeing like an uptick of traffic on your road, that would be something that you would want to let your supervisor's office know. It would be information that would be helpful to have.
All right, taking a look at the sorry about that. So taking a look at the chat here, we have a message from the Maloney family. Just a quick comment. They live on Churchill Road, close to Balls Hill Road. They're impacted by traffic cutting through the neighborhood. So just a summary of their message, the traffic analyst and plan of action for the entire neighborhood is the right thing to do. So we appreciate your comment and thank you.
Okay, the next hand I'm seeing raised is from LA. LA, I'll send you a request to unmute your mic.
Good evening. Thanks all for the presentation and hosting this session. So for me personally, I have a daughter that goes to Churchill, and I have a child who goes to home daycare within the affected area. However, I don't live within the affected area, and rather I live on the opposite side of Balls Hill, so I have to cross over 495 to actually get home. So, I share the concern with the previous question that I don't think the flow of traffic here was fully analyzed across the entire area, but rather these two specific streets. So I think a full assessment needs to take place, because for me, this would prevent me from making a left turn to Georgetown Pike, which, adds significant time to my commute back home, even though I'm a taxpayer like everybody else on this call. So, while I understand that here we're trying to improve the traffic within this area and kind of avoid people going to 495 north from kind of clogging up the streets, I don't think this is necessarily helping anything, right? The flow is going to overflow to other neighborhoods. And then I think a lot of the sentiments that will be heard here are going to be very similar to, I think 2 years ago, VDOT also came to Churchill and we had an evening session where they proposed the same solution. And a lot of folks in the community that don't live within Carper or Dead Run also said that this is not really a good solution. So it seems like The same proposals come up again 2 years later, and we're not really addressing the underlying issue, which is just the overflow of traffic of folks going to 495 north.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, I mean, the program that we do have that we're applying here on Dead Run is basically road specific. So it isn't, you know, a holistic approach. The tools that we do have available are allow us to just kind of address one street at a time. So, you know, we are hoping for greater traffic flow as things improve on the Beltway.
Steve, this is Ben. Could I just mention one thing, and maybe it's just a question. I understand that I think we've got 3 other neighborhoods in the area that have requested us to be part of a study for traffic calming in their neighborhood. Do you have the list that you can maybe share with folks? And then I think obviously also invite if someone is interested in pursuing RTAP in their neighborhood.
So the ones that I'm aware of are, I believe we have 2 requests in right now that I can think of, and both of them are on the north side of Georgetown Pike across from Dead Run. So one of them would include Douglas Drive on the north side of 193 that connects to Benjamin, that then connects back to Balls Hill Road on the north side of 193. That was one request that we had come in. And then I think the other one was, again, on the north side of 193. And I think that was Lawton Street as it connects to Holyrood Drive, that then connects back over to Balls Hill on the north side of 193. Ben, I wasn't aware of another one right now in this area. I could just be forgetting it.
I think in my notes, I just have something about Balls Hill.
Okay. And that could be the one that we, you know, one of the ones that we were just talking about.
Right. And if anyone on the call is interested in pursuing a similar restriction in your neighborhood, certainly reach out to our office. You can reach us at drainsville@fairfaxcounty.gov, and you know we'll share with you information on how to proceed with a similar process that's being proposed here.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, looks like we got a couple comments here. One is from Ron, where he also shares a concern that the entire traffic flow needs to be analyzed. Several times recently, the traffic has become completely gridlocked due to cut-through traffic. Feels there needs to be a holistic analysis of the traffic patterns and mitigation measures. We have another question from Colleen here. She's asking, is it plausible to say that traffic will be remediated once the widening of I-95 is complete? If so, can we wait until construction on I-495 is complete and revisit the issue?
For Colleen's question, you know, regarding the levels of traffic and congestion on 95, 495, we are all hopeful that it does improve when 495 next is completed. We have been working on Dead Run for a while. I think we started originally in 2015. So we did identify a problem on Dead Run prior to the construction starting on 495 next. We can, you know, review after 495 next is completed and make sure that the turn restriction is still required. But at this point, we are looking to move forward with this at this point and see what it does to the local network.
Okay, thank you. I have another hand from Patarag Maloney. I'm going to send you a request to unmute.
Hey folks, you already got my comments in the writing, but a question, how do you bound the problem? Is it simply, or bound a neighborhood, is it simply by who requests it? Or do you take a logical approach and see, well, what is the actual bounds of a neighborhood?
So we are looking as far as identifying the primary use area for the parcels that need to use the road or roads that are being considered for the restriction. And if they need to use the road or roads for access to their parcels, then they're generally considered part of the primary use area. With Dead Run and Carper Street, they were pretty well defined. There are only 3 access points for this little community, and they are connecting to, Churchill on the south side of the 2 points where Carper and Dead Run come into Churchill. And then on the north side at one point where Dead Run does connect into George Canal Pike. And that does seem to be where the majority of the issue is. And it is impacting this community right now. So we are trying to hopefully alleviate some of the concerns there and bring some congestion mitigation to this community.
Okay. It just sounds like that you're splitting actual community into different pieces, which again isn't the I wouldn't think that the right kind of systems engineering approach. But again, I really appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you.
I thank you, Pedro.
All right, a couple other comments we got. Right now we have one from Bert. He feels that gathering the ballots from only a few houses in this area is not the right approach. If you poll now all of the people who drive on this road, you will probably get a very different opinion about this proposal. Feels that must expand the outreach to a much wider area in Fairfax County just to start. And then we have another comment or question from John Roberts. Did you want the members of the task force to identify themselves?
John, if you would like to, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And, or is that correct, Grace? I guess I should ask you if you can unmute Mr. Roberts. Yeah. And go ahead. And then, John, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and if you would like to offer the names of the people in the task force.
Sorry, I just have to find John Roberts in the list of people here. Give me 1 second.
All right, John, we should be right with you. Just 1 second.
Grace, I can go ahead and do it if you'd like. He has his hand raised.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. I got him right here. Okay, John, sent you a unmute request.
And John, if you're not able to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and put those names in the chat and we will read them off for you if you would like. And would it be okay if we just go ahead and move on to, I think Sean has his hand raised. We can go ahead and take Sean's question and then circle back to Mr. Roberts.
Sean, I just sent you a request to unmute.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for hosting this. My name is Sean Sullivan. I live on Lawton and Holyrood. So I think one of the additional study areas that was mentioned. So I first off, I feel for the folks over at Dead Run. We encounter a similar problem on a fairly regular basis. I live right on the corner of Lawton and Holyrood, so Main and Main for congestion and cars speeding around the corner, trying to save themselves time when actually it ends up costing them time, but they don't know that. So I've had scooters run over. I've had balls popped. I have 3 kids. I fear for their safety on almost a daily basis. So I feel for the folks at Dead Run. I am understandably nervous about the implications of this move. And I think several other folks have touched on it in terms of what are the downstream effects, right? And my concern is with no left turn here, if the traffic is getting through there, what prevents them from taking a right and then a left onto Lawton, and just perpetuating the problem? That would be one. And then my question is, when, and maybe you touched on this, I might have missed it, but when is this taking place in terms of the implementation? Like, when is this actually going to be going in? And then in terms of the study period, I just would kindly ask that our area get included in that, the review process.
So we did, is that it, Sean?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
We did touch on, we've been working on this for, quite a few years. When we did start, it was like basically the greater North McLean area. And, we did have different routes that were included. We looked at the Lawton, Holyrood, Balls Hill, and then also the Benjamin, Balls Hill, and Douglas loops on the north side. At that point, we didn't identify a problem, but obviously we feel that, things have probably not gotten better since 2015. So we were concerned about that. We were identifying that. We did, take that into consideration when we first started this process, along with a few other little links and connections. So yes, we can include, the Lawton Holyrood loop when we do, our consideration for what the impacts are. Obviously, we've already got a request in to do that study, and we probably would hold off to do the cut-through analysis in the fall, just to see if there has been any change in driver behavior in that time. But we are ready to look at it as soon as we think the final impacts of the turn restriction at Dead Run are coming up, kind of falling into place. As the timeline is concerned, after this meeting, we're going to leave. We're going to have a comment period for 30 days. So that's going to take us to the middle of June. At that point, if everything still moves forward, because we're taking the comment period and we are reviewing those comments, we do have to take that into consideration before we move forward. At that point, we'd be looking for a board meeting for the board to endorse a resolution to VDOT for this turn restriction. So you can see it's kind of going to have some more time period, or there's going to be a schedule that follows after this meeting. We're looking maybe at an August 26th board meeting, and then at that point, we're hoping that implementation can follow fairly soon.
August
so
26th,
sometime
August
in
25.
September. Pardon me?
August 26th or August 25?
I think it's August 26th, but I don't. That was a board date that was kind of added after I got my schedule. I think it's August 26th.
I think he's asking what year.
Yeah, just to clarify the year. This year, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Year.
Okay. All right. Fair. Thank you. And just real quick, Steve. So thank you for that. But is there anything that would limit the folks, if they were to take a right on Dead Run, to take a left onto Lawton? That is a free movement, correct?
Right. That is a free move that is legal to make. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sean.
All right, jumping back into our comments here. So we have a question from Carol. The traffic which is discouraged to go down Dead Run Drive and Carper Street will most likely proceed on Churchill Road to Balls Hill Road. What is FCDOT solution to stop such redirection?
So at this point, we are hoping for some change in driver behavior if we do put the turn restriction in on Dead Run. Obviously, we'd like to see less cut-through traffic moving through North McLean. Right now, we are, addressing Dead Run. We don't have the tools available to look at Churchill Road, but we do want to make analysis of what impacts the Dead Run turn restriction is having.
Okay, thank you. The next hand I'm seeing raised is from the number ending in 8405. I'm going to send you a request to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I live on Warbler Lane. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to join the call. And I just wanted to echo what others have expressed concern about regarding cut-through traffic through Thrasher and Warbler onto Balls Hill. This is nowhere near what I'm an expert in, but I just, what's concerning is when I hear that the plan is for the change to be implemented and then the domino effect to then be analyzed so that neighbors on neighboring streets basically have to deal with the fallout effect and then possible reaction versus any kind of preemptive analysis that could be done. I don't know like what tools would be needed to do an analysis on Churchill Road. Again, it's not my level of expertise. It's just concerning. And thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we definitely are concerned. And we're aware that, the traffic might, find other routes, but we're hoping that at some point when the 495 next is completed and the turn restriction on Dead Run is put in place, that we are having less, of the cut-through traffic moving through this whole area. Obviously, we do need to see, the improvement on 495 and also the turn restriction go in place to see if we are going to have any downturn in that cut-through traffic.
I guess the concern from other residents would be that if the answer to dealing with the domino effect is the 495 project being completed, why is that not the answer to this currently? Like, why are we going to be potentially impacted, but then the solution is that being finished versus a direct solution now or kind of a process to evaluate the downstream effects now?
So, I mean, we did do the evaluation on Dead Run, and we've done, and again, like I said, this started, quite a few years ago. We were identifying a fairly high level of concern there. So we have the ability to try to help the concern that is on Dead Run, and we want to try to move forward with that. We do realize that there's going to be some possible, displacement of traffic onto other local streets. We will be aware and watching for that. I mean, right now that is, the answer that we have.
All right, well, thanks for your time, and hopefully you can continue to consider this, and thank you for the public feedback period that's to follow.
Okay, thanks for your comments and for your attendance tonight. And Grace, I do think that John was trying to unmute again. If we could try again, and he was going to let us know who is on the task force.
Yep, I just sent him a request, so that should be coming his way.
Grace, while we're waiting for John, he's also put some names of task force members in chat.
And I would like to mention to all those that are having difficulties trying to get your mic to work, I would recommend also turning off all pop-up blockers if you're using a web browser. Also, I don't mind sharing my screen right here. If you can see this right here, this mic option, if you're using the app, and if you drop down, you can choose where your mic is coming from. So just make sure that it's connected to the appropriate part on your computer, or if you're using your phone, it should be pretty straightforward. But just so that you guys are aware, when that allow mic comes, make sure you click that right away, and then make sure your mic is set to the proper settings.
Grace and Ryan, can we move on to the next comment or question?
Sure, yeah. Next comment we have is stating that they appreciate the effort. The traffic situation makes it impossible for the residents on Den Run to get in and out of their homes. This would at least allow us to leave our homes or return to them. Right now, the only option for us is to park our car the road several blocks away. Next comment we have is, I also want to point out, if you live near a major highway, they feel that one of the consequences is that it's unfair for the small groups of residents, or they feel it's unfair that a small group of residents want to prevent the public from accessing a major highway. Next comment we have is from Tom. He says, thank you for hosting the meeting. He lives on Dead Run. It's a very important community effort to improve traffic flow as well as safety of the residents in the affected area. He said he's witnessed 2 incidents just in front of his house. While others may be concerned about traffic in their neighborhoods, they're free to propose restrictions in their neighborhoods. He strongly supports the proposal.
And Ryan, would you like to, I believe that Mr. Roberts dropped the names of the task force members in the chat. Would you want to try to read those off for the people so they're aware?
Yeah, I can give them.
Go ahead.
Give them a quick shout out. So we have, sorry if I pronounce any of these names wrong. Caitlin Lanzara. Sorry. Shauna Wiley, Leo Innick, Jeff and Lindsay Firk, Megan and Jeff Eggers, Danny and Sid Ferraro.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
And there were a few names before that, Ryan. Up a few comments from Mr. Roberts.
Yes. Sorry about that. It's Houston Middleton, Kelly Marino, Jen Park, Daniel Sant, and yes, those I just mentioned.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Okay, the next hand I'm seeing is from Steve Ontosh. I'm going to send you a request to unmute yourself.
Great, thank you. I have 3 questions. So I live on Holyrood, so a few doors down from Sean. My first question, I have 3, is why don't, it's like I don't need a traffic study. It's like 90% of these cars are Maryland tags that are flying through here. So we should absolutely do this. Of course, the cars are now immediately going to Thrasher. The only reason you don't go to Thrasher now is because Balls Hill backs up. So why would you go to Thrasher? So that's 100% going to get affected by this. And so my first question is, why don't we put no right-hand turn signs? Why are we letting, yes, I'm picking on Maryland, but like, why are we letting the cut-through drivers even enter the neighborhood? So they can go 45 miles an hour through Dead Run to make a right on Georgetown Pike to then cut through Lawton. Like, it feels like we should be trying to prevent this, not forget making a left on a Georgetown Pike. We should be making a no cut through traffic off of Churchill. And then we should put one on Thrasher. And then I am sensitive to Churchill and Balls Hill, but I don't know like what's considered a, small road or big road, but like there's clearly 3 neighborhoods on the south side that should just have no right-hand turn signs. And then also no left-hand turn signs as well, but I'm not sure why we want the cars to be going through the neighborhoods to even begin with.
Okay. Is that it?
That's the first. And then, of course, like my next is, this is more of an open question, which is, I know this is kind of a local task force, but I go out to my driveway at the end of Holyrood and I ask the cars, I'm just like, why are you on this road? when there's basically no traffic on Georgetown Pike, why are you cutting onto Holyrood? And they say every time, Waze or Apple Maps tells me to do this. So I've taken videos, I actually sent to the governor's task force, where I leave my house, I see the traffic. It basically takes 45 minutes from my house to get to Balls Hill to to 495, go back on Georgetown Pike, and you're there in 5 minutes. But they're only doing it because Waze and Apple Maps is telling them the wrong thing to do, which is what kind of Sean was saying earlier, which also is why these cars are cutting through dead run to begin with. And so that's the second question, which is, do we have any recourse with sort of the major tech companies that own the software that in many times is preventing cars from cutting through, even if it doesn't save them any time?
Okay. You said 3, or can we go ahead and just
Yeah,
answer
well,
these
the
2?
3 is like, if I go out to Thrasher as soon as the sign gets put up and take a video for 3 consecutive days, like, or Holyrood or Lawton, it just doesn't feel like we need months of study. It's like this is immediately going to happen because all of these cars are going to do the thing that they're all trying to get to 495. And so this is I'm all for dead run doing this, but all it's going to do is take the cars onto other side streets. There's no expectation that this is going to prevent cars from not cutting through just a different neighborhood. And so my question is there any expectation, truthfully, that this is going to prevent any less cars from doing this? You may say, well, that's what the study period's for, but they're all trying to get from wherever they're going to 495. And so I just don't see how this will only make everyone else's life worse in the surrounding streets.
Okay. All right. So as far as why we didn't have the access restriction at Churchill is, so we did work with a community task force. We came up with a couple of options. We did present options of restricting movement off of Churchill onto Dead Run and Carper. And then I think another entity like proposed the no left turn off of Dead Run onto 193. And that's the direction that the task force wanted to go in. So that is why we ended up with a restriction on the end of Dead Run at 193. As far as, and Neil, if you can possibly answer the Waze question in just a second, but as far as the displacement of traffic at other locations, yeah, I mean, we are concerned about that. We've talked about that a couple of times tonight already. All we can do is work with the tools that we have. We will, respond to any request. As Ben Wiles said at the Drainsville office, please sit in, whatever concerns that you have, and we will act upon them when we receive the request. And yes, there is a process. Yes, we have to be able to identify that concern before we can start proposing the mitigation. And Neil, if you want to answer the Waze question, possibly.
Sure. So again, this is Neil Freshman with FCDOT. I know that Virginia DOT does have contacts with the various wayfinding companies. We can ask them about this, but the reality is that all we can do is ask. The wayfinding companies, due to free speech rights, can put the route that their algorithm says is the best route. And I agree with you, it doesn't always make sense. Drivers still need to pay attention what decisions they're making, but that's all we can do. We can ask VDOT to contact them, but I do not think it's going to actually change the algorithms that they're using for traffic.
Thanks, Neil.
Steve, just real quick before you go on, we've got 7 hands up. In order to just make sure that we get to everyone, can we limit it to just one question at a time, and then we can come back around? I just want to make sure we get everyone. Thank you.
All right, Ben. Yeah, we will try to keep those questions singular from going forward.
All
All
right.
right, if we want to go ahead and move on to the next person.
Sure, yeah, I'll jump into the comments here. Looks like we have a comment from Bert. Says that the concept of residents from a specific neighborhood being able to pay $24 for the privilege of making a left turn, whether other Fairfax residents can't, is offensive. This is not how traffic works. I have another comment here saying that major highway can be accessed from major roads, and this is a great effort. And then it looks like we have a question from Paul. What is the thought process of enforcement to prevent the left-hand turn from 4 to 7?
I'm not sure I understand what the thought process is, but we do have somebody from the police on, and if they would like to weigh in, John, if you have like any comments you'd like to say about doing enforcement.
Hi, this is Lieutenant Kim with the McLean District Station with Fairfax County Police. Can you repeat that question one more time?
Sure,
I
yeah.
think, no, I was going to say, I think the question is, how is this going to be enforced?
So that's the tricky part. Our enforcement is only if there is an approved VDOT sign up, then we can enforce it. But otherwise, we can't really enforce a lot. So it just depends on what is posted and what guidelines are put in place. I can't really answer it beyond that because I don't really do what ifs, but like I said, if you put up a sign that says no left turns on certain hours, then we can enforce that. But then again, like I said, it has to be approved by Virginia Department of Transportation. Does that kind of help? No.
And I do believe the sign kit that we're showing on the screen right now should be what is, we are going to install. So the no left turn indication, the time, and the days of the week are basically approved by VDOT. I do believe this was the sign kit that they were anticipating or thinking about installing during the construction period for 495 next.
So if that's the sign that VDOT approves and that's what's put up, so we wouldn't initially have to have a grace period for drivers to recognize that there's a new sign put up, which usually lasts about 10 to 15 days. And after that, we would start enforcement. But that would be based upon how many officers I have available to enforce traffic that day. I can't guarantee you that there will be an officer there every day. Unfortunately, their primary focus is to handle calls for service, and then secondary by traffic enforcement. So I only have a limited amount of officers working in the McLean District Station at any given time. So like I said, if we have a heavy call volume for criminal matters, that would take precedent over traffic enforcement.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lieutenant Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hand I'm seeing raised is from HJS. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your mic.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for hosting. This is Hans Schmidt. I'm just going to make 2 statements and ask 1 question. The domino effect, I share everybody else's sentiment that this is a small Band-Aid on a much larger problem that requires holistic evaluation and solutions. I think the notion that the 495 next completion is going to somehow solve the problem, I think that's wishful thinking. All we've done is extended the parking lot. As long as there's no wider bridge connecting the hot lanes or the toll lanes up to 270, nothing's going to change there. And then my question back to the lieutenant again, thank you for everything you guys do. However, I think the enforcement is also a big false narrative. A number of years ago when we had the meeting at Churchill School, VDOT talked about extra money available to enforce the intersection at 193 and 495. I live off of 195 and go through there daily. There is no enforcement. The intersection is frequently blocked with multiple lanes of traffic trying to get onto the Beltway. That's a change. So again, I really don't think that any of the things that have been discussed tonight are a solution. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have our next comment from Jeff. He says he lives on Dead Run, and we empathize with the other affected neighborhoods. Those other neighborhoods are eligible to take the same steps that Dead Run and Carper have taken. We had a hit and run occur in front of our house on Dead Run due to a road rage due to the traffic. We've had emergency response vehicles unable to get through. Many days we can't get out of our driveway. These are real impacts, and the task force went through the process with a lot of effort and consensus to get to this point. The other affected neighborhoods are now in a position where the task force has blazed a trail for them to follow. And then we have our next question, which is, how about no through traffic for the entire neighborhood?
Okay. I think we've mentioned this once or twice before. This is the tools that we have available. The cut through program is basically road or road network specific. So it does have to be, one or two roads that we're working at a time. And we do have to identify that cut through level that Nicole had mentioned in her presentation before we can consider remediation. So the holistic approach I know would be, what everybody would prefer. Unfortunately, we just don't have the tools available to do that.
Okay, thank you. The next hand I'm seeing is from Tom. Tom, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your mic.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. I've been working on traffic issues in our neighborhood for many years, and before this option was even available to us, we worked on the traffic calming measures because that was all that was available. This is a step forward to addressing a new program to address cut through traffic and problems in these communities. This is not, I would just emphasize, this is not the last step. It's only the first step. And I'm very supportive of other, neighborhoods moving forward too. And I hope that it could all be done on an expedited basis because this is a big, important issue for all of us. But I just don't think the status quo is the solution. I think the solution is to implement the tools that we've been given now to manage traffic. So thank you for everyone.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Okay, I'm going to take another hand. I see the next one is from the number ending in 9733. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your mic.
Thank you for taking my question. And you did ask that we only ask one question. I do have more than one question, but I guess the most important question I would like to, I'm hearing that you utilized a 2015 traffic study, 10 years old. You keep saying you've been working on this for a long time, but you worked on, I think, something in September and with a task force. And I'd like to understand what the notice was that was given to the neighborhoods. For me, it's Thrasher Road. There are others who would be directly impacted by the decision, because at the beginning of this call, it was made mention that there was a 30-day notice. I did see a sign on Dead Run, but other than that, I don't recall seeing any signs. And if you're making proposals that directly impact a neighborhood that's one block over, I'd like to understand what the notice process was and opportunity existed to have people weigh in on that suggestion to impact just the next street over.
Okay. We have been working on this for a while. We did collect data back in 2015, but we did also recollect data. Nicole has up on the screen. It was the date of the traffic study was in January of 2024. So we aren't working off of data that is 10 years old. As far as the process that we went through, there were multiple steps. One, when we were working with just the task force to identify what remediation we might want to propose. Then we had a ballot phase with the community because they are the ones that are impacted the most and would have to deal with the turn restriction to access their community. So that's when we had the ballot phase, and those were the people that were identified in the primary use area. Those were the ones that were involved in that ballot phase. We also had a community meeting leading into that ballot phase to explain to the people that were receiving the ballot what it was and what it was about. And the public meeting that we're at now is for the greater community, for you now to weigh in. And as I said earlier, we will have a 30-day comment period following this meeting. You can go online and submit comments, and they will be taken into consideration when FCDOT and VDOT make a determination on moving forward.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is there was no notice to the residents on Thrasher or Warbler that are 1 block away and connect from Churchill to Balls Hill. There was no notice because there's no opportunity in the meetings. You were meeting on your own with the task force. You're having a ballot with just people living on Carper and Dead Run. And then you're just having a community meeting with people living on Carper and Dead Run. So the people on Carper and Dead Run can just decide what's good for them. And frankly, I do also feel for them, but you don't give notice to, as the other gentleman said, the neighborhood that obviously will be impacted by that decision making. So there's no notice, just this last 30 days. And I think that's what I've heard here.
Right, correct. So it's tonight's
Okay, thank
meeting and the comment period.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hand I'm seeing is from April. April, I'm going to send you a request to unmute.
Hello,
Hello, April.
I'm unmuted. Hi, Neil. It's April Georgeless. Hi,
Hello.
Ben and everybody else. Thanks for this meeting. It's important. This cut through has been a conversation since what, Neil? 2018 with MTAG, McLean Traffic Advisory Group.
Yeah, I actually
that
think
was-
it was 2017.
2017. Oh, how time flies when you're having so much cut through fun. Anyway, this is a long conversation. And it's a sad one because it's only getting worse and worse. Dead Run in the entire area is gridlocked. And it's because now with the 495 next construction and then the opening of the 2 hot lanes merging at the GW merge area is going to make this even worse. This is becoming a crisis and will definitely be a bigger crisis towards the end. But right now, it's really good that you're doing a follow-up study on cut-through traffic. I wish there had been one done already. It's been requested, and there really was a big need for that. Also, there needs to be the Promise Police. The mention before by another participant was at Dead Run. We need the Promise Police by VDOT and the safety staffing at the intersection of Balls Hill and 193. Also, police at the Dead Run area and the U-turn area, I think would be very helpful. I know we don't have enough police. We don't have enough police, but VDOT promised safety staffing like they do with road controls at the intersection. We haven't seen that, guys, and that would be so helpful. At the U-turn area, my question is not about the U-turn area, but cameras. Can there be cameras? This is not my question. Can there be cameras at the intersection at Dead Run and at the U-turn area? The U-turn area, if there's not a sign up already for no U-turn, there needs to be a study there also for that U-turn area and how that impacts the traffic gridlock. But what is the fine for someone who violates the no U-turn? Now, if I could get to my question.
April, we're going to do one question at a time. Is the question about the camera your question?
No, I'm just saying there should be
Okay, well,
cameras
we're gonna take that
Okay.
as a comment and come back to you.
A
Thank
comment.
you, April.
Now,
We've got six people. No,
I
April,
have an important.
April, I'm sorry. We've got 6 people.
Ben, please stop it. I would like my question. Neil, would you please allow me my question? It's about the stacking lanes. And this is important, guys, because you may want to look at this. I have reports from residents that the stacking lanes, I don't know if they've been completed. But whatever's going on here, I have reports of 3 current lanes on 193 heading towards Great Falls before the light. The left lane provides access to 495 South and Tysons. The middle lane is intended to access 193 and Great Falls, and the right lane is designed to access 495 North to Maryland. Unfortunately, I'm being told that the middle lane is also being used by drivers to access 495 North to Maryland. The access lane entrance is not designed to accommodate 2 lanes of cars merging. Jamming backs up, and that's the result. If this has not been recently corrected,
April, let me interject really quick. April, we set up this meeting tonight to discuss cut through traffic on Dead Run. I realize that the 495 area as it leads into the bridge going over the river is kind of linked to this, but is not, this meeting tonight is not to discuss lane usage on 495. So we can ask Lieutenant Kim what the fine level is for the no U-turn, and then we're going to move on to the next caller. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Will you be installing ballasts for between those 2 lanes, the middle and the right lane is the suggestion and the question. I think it's something to consider, guys. We did it before this whole construction started, and the dead run right-hand turn and U-turns, people are going to be violating that with no police there. So it's something to consider because these stacking lanes are adding all these lanes of holding cars. Have they been completed? The stacking lanes have been completed?
Okay,
Thank
April,
you very much,
we're
April. We're going to go ahead and move on.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hand I'm seeing is from the number ending in 0473. I'm going to send you a request to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. So I'm on Carper and Dead Run, and I just want to express our thanks to the Drainsville district staff for working with us with this. This has been kind of a nightmare, and I want to mirror some of our neighbors' comments on traffic being backed up. It gets bad. I think you've seen pictures and the studies that you've done have I think are pretty representative of how bad it can get. We have seen accidents. We've seen dangers to our children. Most of the people in our neighborhood group have kids they're in schools and commute every day and come home to these lots of cars driving aggressively through the neighborhood. We've had instances of road rage and difficulties with emergency vehicles getting through. So it's clearly not ideal. I just want to make some comments that we I think we talked through some of the comments that some of the points that our neighbors on Thrasher and other have raised online about what's a global solution versus a local optimized solution. And I think we're certainly very sympathetic to the idea of having if you're from Maryland, don't drive through our neighborhood and our neighborhood writ large. I think that would clearly be ideal. But my understanding is, given the tools we have, being the expression that's being used here, is that we have to deal with not hypothetical traffic problems, but realized and measurable traffic issues. And so what this problem calls for any systems analyst is really iterative local solutions towards a global solution. We can't really go immediately towards a global solution. But I'd say that our neighborhood and our staff force have had a good experience working with the Drainville staff, and we'd honestly offer our hand and help to our neighbors who, are concerned about potential traffic problems, because I think there's a solution. But as I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have to wait for the problem to manifest before we fix it. But just with that, I want to say, thanks to Drainville staff, and we, particularly us with children and traffic issues, neighbor, we really appreciate your help on this.
All right, thank you, and I can echo that too. They've done yeoman's work on this.
All right. So jumping back into our chat, looks like we have a comment from Shirley saying that the same cut-through speeding traffic has been seen on Ingleside Ave, causing a great deal of safety concerns. No through traffic for the entire neighborhood would make a lot of sense. We have our next comment from Bert saying that you can't restrict travel on a street based on where someone is going. If it's a public street and a driver chooses to take that route, that's their right. And our next comment is from Christy. She'd like to point out that unlike Dead Run, we, Benjamin, Lawton, Arbor, have no sidewalks, so our children and residents must walk on the streets in our neighborhood while tons of Maryland cars are zooming through. And then we do have a question from Sean. What is the enforcement mechanism at the no left turn? Officers at the intersection or cameras?
So currently we do not have cameras available. Lieutenant Kim, I guess we would be looking to you. I'm assuming it's going to need to be an officer in a vehicle there at that sign location.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to answer some of the questions that's on the chat. If you're talking about like, there's a video camera just to record what's going on, that can be put out by VDOT on its own without any issue from us. If you're talking about like a speed enforcement camera or like a red light camera, that's different because that's governed by Virginia law on how and where we can put one out. To do that, we would need an actual traffic study done by VDOT and then the approval by the superintendent of Virginia State Police to put one out. It's not something that we can just randomly put out on any intersection or at any street corner that we would like. Once a location has been determined on whether or not we're going to put a camera out there, then we have to follow Virginia state law, and it has to be within a certain distance to a school. Most of the cameras that we have out now, we don't actually have any speed cameras. The only cameras Fairfax County uses right now at the moment are red light. The only speed cameras we have are at elementary schools and some middle schools. But that's about as much as we can do at the moment. And even if we do want to put a camera up, we would have to request to the Board of Supervisors for funding.
All right, thank you. So I think, it would require an officer in a car right now to do the enforcement for those two locations.
Okay, thank you. The next hand I'm seeing is from Seema. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your mic.
Hi, I'm agreeing with everyone about enforcing, but we also need some traffic cops to enforce the laws. And also the way the voting was conducted is not right, because it's never in any election, it is never 50% votes. It's 50% of the people who voted, I understand their rules, but we need to change the rules to make sense. We cannot say like, this is the rule. We have to update them to make it, use our common sense. And so many people with kids, they are on vacation. This was during winter. It's so hard for people and they forget. We all complain about traffic, but it takes an effort on people's part to go and mail that ballot, and people forget with other priorities. Not that this is not important, but I'm just letting you know. And this is causing a lot of traffic. It's very hard for me and many of my neighbors, most of my neighbors, I should say, to get out of their homes, which is very sad. That's all.
All right, thank you. And the voting is based on the state policy. So, that was set at the state level, and we do.
But you need to tell them that this is the feedback from the community so that they change the policy.
Well, all right. Hopefully they'll hear that tonight and take that back to their office.
I really hope so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Also, we need to hire more cops. I wrote that in the chat. The number of assaults is increasing and the traffic, people are driving like crazy here, you know. So they need to hire more cops.
Okay.
For all the taxes we pay, we need this basic services.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next hand I'm seeing is from the number ending in 9733. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your mic.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, trying to honor the one question. I want to make sure that I have clarity on process because I keep hearing these words that we only have these certain tools and you have to wait for something to manifest, and somehow there's just this like tiny little resolution that can impact others and you don't have any way to do anything about that before you take action. And I think for so many people here, it's very obvious that really a solution that makes sense within the tools that I think you have is to just perhaps change the access onto Churchill. That seems to make the most sense. But what I want to understand is you have said that if you put this in place, you imply that we just have to wait for the impact. I think most people who live here know where the impact is going. And then I'd like to understand the actual process, because I think you said that you would then consider that impact. But on another hand, I'm hearing it's been 8 years in the making. I don't want there to be this tiny little quote unquote fix for one area. Then the issue just moves to Thrasher, or probably Ingleside as well. And then what? You have to wait 8 years. It's a really an illogical approach, and I don't think that's grounded in sound traffic analysis. And so I'd like to understand what is the process when that, like, let's say Thrasher is then impacted within that 30 days. What's the process for changing that? Are you suggesting we then launch into an 8-year process? I mean, that could not possibly be what you're suggesting for a neighborhood that's 1 block away from Carper. But I would like to understand the exact process you're saying would have to be utilized.
So the analysis period is going to be for the installation of the restriction on Dead Run to see if we are impacting the local network in the area negatively, or if it's not functioning correctly, if it's causing some safety concern. If that's the case, we're going to use that 30-day period to make that determination and possibly remove the restriction. As far as identifying other locations where traffic might be displaced to, such as Thrasher, we would then need to once again go through the process. Now, granted, it did take a long time for Dead Run, but there were multiple things that came up, during this process with Dead Run. We have done some work to streamline the steps. They are still quite a few steps in place. I mean, if Thrasher were to rise to the level of the qualifier for the program, as far as cut-through traffic is concerned, I can guarantee you that it won't take 8 years to go back through the process, but it will take some time.
But when you say you'll analyze the local network, I think that was what you said. I think you're just talking about whether it's impacted Dead Run and Carper, right? You're not looking at whether it impacts 1 block away. Is Thrasher part of the local network? That's what I think I'm struggling with here, because you're artificially creating something and just artificially just shifting a problem potentially. Is Thrasher part of the local network that you will analyze?
Yeah, Thrasher would be part of the the greater or the local network. So Thrasher, and then of course, if they are displacing traffic on the other side of 193, we would take a look at that. So, the larger network is beyond just Dead Run and Carper.
But does your process then allow you to, like, let's say you try it, you then see, whoops, everybody's going through Kings Manor, Ingleside, and Thrasher, which I know isn't your intention, right? And I think we all know that's what's going to happen because we live here. And so then can you, when you refer to these tools you have, do you have the tool to then say, oh, that wasn't the right fix, we now do agree with all these people who weighed in that the right fix really is just to restrict the turns onto Churchill from Balls Hill and 123, and frankly, you'd have to also capture Thrasher and Warbler off of Balls Hill. Do you have the tools to do that? That's been your word, to fix a problem that you then artificially create?
We don't have the tools to apply this to Churchill Road or to 123. Okay, so Churchill Road is a collector road. It is collecting traffic from various other local roads and delivering it up kind of to the greater network. So we do need, as Nicole is showing right now, for the functional classification for the street to be qualifying for the program to be a local residential street. So that would be Thrasher, that would be Lawton, that would be Holyrood, that would be Balls Hill on the north side of 193, and Douglas on the north side of 193. But we cannot apply access restrictions onto a collector road, then we're kind of conflicting with what that road's intent is.
Yeah, thank you. But you could then say, oh, this has just created a problem. We're going to add the no turn onto Thrasher, Ingleside. I apologize. I don't know if it's which one goes into Kings Manor. You have the tool to expand that no turn restriction. Is that right?
We have the ability to have the road go into the program. We can't just automatically add turn restrictions. We're still going to have to go through the process. And again, we have streamlined the process since Dead Run started. Dead Run started before COVID. That brought a lot of things to a halt. And then also, I think Dead Run was waiting for the sticker program before they wanted to move forward. So there were a number of reasons why Dead Run kind of took as long as it did.
Samantha, we really appreciate your comments and questions. We do have quite a few people that would like their comments read, and people have their hands raised. If we can move on, please.
My one last comment is just that it sounds like you're asking neighbors to fight against the Dead Run Carper issue because you are not accounting for them. And I think that's just unfortunate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So our next comment is from Jen Park. I think the permit idea, which will be the first in Fairfax County, can be implemented in all other affected areas where the traffic studies show that they need it. We've worked on this for years, more urgently after someone got hit in front of our house. Now that we're able to have this and it works, it should take less time to implement it to other neighborhoods. And then going down in the comments, next question is, isn't the task force comprised solely of Dead Run residents?
I believe not. So I do think that there were some of the task force members who were outside of the Dead Run and Carper area, but I would need some help with that, either from the Drainsville office, or if Mr. Roberts can drop a comment into the chat box as to if any of the Dead Run Carper folks were living outside of that community.
Also, any other task force members that are on the meeting tonight, you can also raise your hand and we'll call on you as well.
Steve, I don't know offhand, but I think you do have a map that you had that you guys had in the presentation. If you want to at least put that up.
Yeah, we can go back and show that map again. So yeah, I mean, I do believe, Ben, that there was at least one person that came off of that that group we were working with originally.
Oh, right, right. That's right.
And I'm trying to find her name now, and I'm struggling to find it. Was Kelly Marino outside of the Dead Run Carper area? I thought she was. I thought she lived somewhere in North McLean outside of this area. So I do think there were people on the task force that were living outside of the community. Oh, no, she says, no, I'm on Dead Run. I'm sorry, Kelly. I must have mistaken you for somebody else. All right, Ryan, do we want to move on to any other comments?
I think we have one hand raised from Samantha. If you want to unmute your mic, I just sent you a request.
I was just going to add I know that there are a lot of our neighbors who are concerned that, the traffic is going to filter into their areas. And for someone who actually does live on Carper Street and deals with this every day, I absolutely appreciate and understand. I think the thing that we are not addressing, though, is the reason this boundary restriction we're talking about is so limited is because we were motivated to get together to make these requests because of what we deal with every day. So we would absolutely encourage any of these other neighborhoods that are worried about the impact to do the same thing. And we absolutely would be supportive of helping those efforts because we know what it's like every day. So we would, hopefully, as other people have commented, it shouldn't take a decade to do this again. Because I've been dealing with this for a decade. I remember when it started. So we absolutely would be supportive of that if there was any way to help.
All right, thank you, Samantha. And Ryan, if we're seeing any more comments, we can read them out. I do believe, we might want to be looking at, showing the contact information, Nicole, for people after this meeting is concluded, how they might submit comments or reach out to the FCDOT office or the Drainsville District office. So we do have up on the screen now contact information for FCDOT. If you do want to talk to staff members, you can call. Oops, and it just disappeared. There it is again. Call 703-877-5600 and ask to talk to somebody about the Dead Run Drive Carper Street cut-through project. Or you can email dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov with Dead Run Carper Street cut-through in the subject line. The same is true for Drainsville, so it'd just be drainsville@fairfaxcounty.gov with the same subject line, or call their office number at 703-356-0551. And then we also do have our comments online where you can place a comment that's on the screen now. I guess I can read it off. It's, at www.fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation residential-traffic-administration, and then another /dead/run/drive. So if you do want to offer a comment and you want to find that location, please call or email our office, or also do the same, or you can also do the same to the Drainsville office. Okay.
One other thing on this side, I will definitely be putting that link within the chat after Ryan goes through the chat and we get through all the questions that you guys all might have. We also have our QR code that will send you to that website as well. This is available to us to share as well. As we mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, it is being recorded and may be shared on social media. So we'll need about 2 weeks to process that meeting, and then we'll be able to provide it out to the public as requested. You'll need to reach out to the Drainsville office to request that recording.
And Nicole, somebody's asking if we could drop the comments link into the chat.
Yep, I will definitely go ahead and do that. I just don't want it to get lost in the filter. So if Ryan, if you want to go ahead and continue reading people's comments or questions, and as we get towards the end, I'll pop it in the chat.
All right, thank you. And I think we're basically through most of the questions, if not all in the chat. Are there any left?
I think a lot of them are just comments right now. And then some of the questions have been answered. But I can go through those real quickly if we want to.
I think we've got one hand up. If maybe we can just close out with whoever's on the phone.
All right, Grace, if you want to send an unmute to that location.
Yep. I just sent a request to unmute your mic to, I believe it was 9733.
Hi, thank you. For those people that are on the telephone, where do we locate the chat and the various links, et cetera, that were provided during this call? Thank you.
What I would do is contact either our office or the Drainsville office and ask for a copy of the presentation. Is that something you feel comfortable doing?
Yeah, I can do that. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, and then we can just send you the presentation in a PDF, and it will have that comments location within the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I do believe I think we've addressed most of the questions in the chat. I think there were some back and forth.
Someone has repeated a question in the chat asking, when we install the restriction, do we also notify Google Waze and others that the restriction is in place?
I mean, we can reach out to Google. We're not positive it's going to have any impact. So, we've discussed that earlier, and we are still trying to work through that. So that would probably be something that we would need to coordinate with VDOT. Okay. And I think that pretty much lines everything up for tonight. And I do want to thank everybody that came on. We had a very good turnout and hopefully some constructive conversation. So, like I said, we will leave the comment period open for 30 days, and those comments will be reviewed and taken into consideration. And I do believe, Neil, do you have anything you would like to add, or Ben?
No, I really would just like to thank everyone for giving their time tonight for this issue. I mean, we know there's a lot of issues going on in everybody's life, and when you can take the time to help us with this, we appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll just say thank you to everyone who participated. It's somewhat of an imperfect process that we have, but we appreciate everyone's patience working through this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.